So, I see you really want to see part 8 of my Pokemon anime journey, and I can understand why, but making these take a lot of time to make. But I'm really happy to see the comments that you really want to see this. Alright, without any fuss or delay, let's start part 8. Now, everything follows in the anime, but with Omega tagging in. Pikachu was captured by Team Rocket and blasted off. Trying to find Pikachu, Omega and Ash ride with Officer Jenny to Professor Rowan's lab. After riding at Professor Rowan's lab and getting Ash's 8-punch Pokeball, as well as found out that Ash's Pikachu is traveling with a trainer trying to find them. Along with Omega, Ash meeting with Brock again. Ash catches a Starly to try and find him in the sky, and then Ash, Brock, and Omega meet up with Paul. But they leave after seeing a Volt Tackle after saving Pikachu from Team Rocket and sending them blasting off. They meet up with a trainer named Dawn and a Piplup. After phoning Professor Rowan, they went back because of Ash having a package from his mother. Once they arrive, Ash received a new outfit from his mother. While Ash is changing to his new outfit, Omega heard a crying Pokemon. And he meets up with the Pokemon he haven't seen before to see that is Chimchar. Dawn told Omega that this is one of the Pokemon Professor Rowan started off with, but Dawn was confused on where the other Pokemon is. Professor Rowan came out behind and told him that the other trainer took Turtwig, the other starter Pokemon that he took on his journey. Omega, seeing how sad Chimchar is, asked Professor Rowan if it's alright to take Chimchar. Rowan then asked why, and Omega said he feels sorry for Chimchar being left out. Rowan was alright with this as long as Chimchar was alright with this as well. Omega asked Chimchar if he's alright coming along with him, and as soon as he said that, Chimchar hopped onto his shoulder, being all happy and cheerful again. Seeing that, Rowan gives Omega Chimchar's Pokeball. Now everything still follows. Dawn, who wants to be a coordinator, tagged along with Ash, Brock, and Omega, but before leaving, Paul challenges Ash to a 3-on-3, which leads in a draw. So after all that, he prepared to do his ventures in Sinnoh. Dawn tried to catch Oreburgh but failed. Then they met up with Nando and Dawn lost a battle against his Danu. And then they arrived at the Pokemon Center for Omega and Ash to register for the Sinnoh League. Now this is where Omega splits off with them because Ash and Dawn argue about with Nando should choose to focus on winning badges or ribbons. Now Omega stayed in the night and woke up without Ash and the others. Now Omega battled with the 3 trainers yesterday with the 3 Sinnoh starters, one with the Piplup. Now Omega battled each of them one at a time and won all 3, with Chimchar against Turtwig, Murkrow against Chimchar, and Roselia against Piplup. He then healed his team and of course made his way to Jubilife City. Now while walking he encountered a wild Shinx. Omega decides to battle with it with his Chimchar. After weakening the wild Shinx, he threw the Pokeball, and after 3 shakes, Omega catches the Shinx. After traveling a bit and training his team, Omega arrived at Jubilife City. However, he only stayed there for 1 day to heal his team. Then he made his way to Route 203, where he meets with a trainer named Lucas, who challenges Omega to a Pokemon battle. The battle was a 3-on-3 and Lucas started off with his Magby, while Omega called out with Murkrow. Omega was confident that his Murkrow would win against Magby. However, Omega underestimated Lucas's Magby, and then Magby finished it off with a powerful Fire Punch. In the second battle, Lucas called back his Magny and called out his Eevee, while Omega called back his Murkrow and called out his Shinx. However, Lucas's Eevee was very powerful, but Omega's Shinx started to glow and evolve into Luxio. Thanks to that, Omega's Luxio was able to win against Lucas's Eevee. With 1 loss and 1 won on both sides, this was the final victor. Omega called out his Chimchar, while Lucas called out his Turtwig. However, both Pokemon surprised to see each other, after knowing that both Pokemon came from Professor Rowan's lab. While the two battled each other, something outstanding happened. Both Pokemon started to glow, and Omega's Chimchar evolved into Monferno, and Lucas's Turtwig evolved into Grotto. And thanks to the evolution, Monferno learned Mud Punch. However, Omega still had the advantage against Lucas's Grotto. With that, Omega wins the battle. Lucas enjoyed the battle against Omega and wished him luck against the Oreburgh City gym leader. Now, Omega arrived at Oreburgh City before Ash and Paul. However, once he heard about the Oreburgh City that does fossil Pokemon, Omega just tried to find a Sinnoh fossil Pokemon for his team. After talking with the Oreburgh City gym leader Rourke, he agreed, but he had to treat the fossil Pokemon with kindness to the Century. On the 3rd day, when Omega arrived at the Pokemon Center in the afternoon, he meets up with Paul. Paul being himself challenges Omega to a 3-on-3. Now Paul started the battle with Elekid. Now, while Omega was going to call out Luxio, he decided to call out Roselia. Now, while Omega knows Paul's Elekid's moves, during half a minute of the battle, Omega told Roselia to use her Tract, surprising Paul. After landing 2 attacks, Paul's Elekid was unable for the battle. They both called their Pokemon back and Paul told Omega that Attract is one of the most useless moves. But Omega disagreed that Attract is the most useful move that Roselia knows. Paul just ignored his comment and called out his second Pokemon, Ursaring, while Omega called out his Monferno, who managed to win since he knows Mud Punch, as well as the most powerful move, as well as his newest moves known as Flame Wheel. Paul arguably accepted his loss, but he told Omega that next time they'll meet, that he's going to win. Now on the 4th day, Omega finally found a Sinnoh fossil. Once they got an outline with Rourke, he met up with Ash, Dawn and Brock. Now everything followed like in the anime. Paul battled against Rourke and won, and on the next day it's Ash's turn. But on that day, Omega received his Sinnoh fossil Pokemon known as Cranidos. Now Omega showed Cranidos to battle against the Oreburgh City gym with Ash against Rourke. Now of course Ash lost and Paul watched it to the end and was not at all impressed. On the next day, everything happened at once. Team Rocket tried to steal the fossil regenerator and failed, Rourke's Cranidos evolved into Rampados, and Dawn's Piplup and Baneri used their agility and grace to avoid Aerodactyl's Giga Impact, which gives Ash the idea for his next gym battle. Now of course, before Ash's turn, Omega is up since he wanted the Sinnoh fossil for his team. So instead of Ash's battle, it's Omega against the Oreburgh City gym leader, Rourke, tomorrow. On that day, the battle started off with Rourke and its Onix, and Omega and its Roselia. While Rourke Onix was indeed fast, thanks to Magical Leaf, it cannot be invaded. However, Omega knows Rourke's Onix knows Stealth Rock, and decided to use Roselia's Trap to make sure he doesn't use it. After landing some Magical Leaf attacks, Rourke's Onix was defeated. Rourke then called back his Onix and called out his Geodude, while Omega stuck with Roselia. Unfortunately, Rourke's Geodude knows Stealth Rock, surprising Omega. Now Omega must keep Roselia in the battle, but it ended up being taken down by Geodude's hidden power. Omega called back his Roselia and called out his Cranidos, but due to Stealth Rock, Cranidos took some damage. Even though Cranidos is okay against Rourke's Geodude, Cranidos took a lot of damage from Geodude's Seismic Toss attack. But in the end, both Pokemon were defeated in battle. In the end, it was Brock's Rampados against Omega and his Monferno. While Monferno took some damage from Stealth Rock, in the end, Omega's Monferno managed to beat Rourke's Cranidos while charging Cranidos' Flamethrower with its Flame Wheel. In the end, Omega won the battle against Rourke and received the Cold Badge. On that day, Omega healed his team, and he told Ash that he wouldn't be watching his battle against Rourke because he needs to get stronger and bond with his Cranidos. Ash understood, and they went their own separate ways once again. On the way to Jubilife City, Omega went north to Pastoria City. While battling trainers as well as training, he arrived in Memorial Town. But before continuing, Omega healed his team and headed to the Internal Forest. Once Omega arrived in Turtle City, he healed his team, he heard about 3 stones he haven't heard before. They being the Dust Stone, the Shine Stone, and the Dawn Stone. After knowing that 2 of the stones can evolve his Pokemon, he decided to try and find them while he's traveling. But once Omega arrived at the gym, he found that the gym leader wasn't there, but they sent a message to her nurse to get her. So while waiting, Omega decided to try and find the 2 stones that he needs to evolve his Pokemon. After looking around, unfortunately he couldn't find the 2 stones that he needs. Those being a Dust Stone for Murkrow and a Shine Stone for Roselia. But he did find a new Pokemon to add to his team, and it's none other than a Wild Weasel. On the next day, Omega was faced off against Gardenia. Now of course all her Pokemon were good, especially the Turtwig and Roselia. But Omega took out Cherubi and Turtwig with Murkrow and Roselia with Monferno. After the battle was over, Gardenia gave Omega the Forest Badge. Before leaving, he healed his team and set out to Hot Home City. Whilst traveling, he trained his team, as well as battled some trainers, and they ended up learning some new moves along the way. But once Omega arrived in Hot Home City, he found a note on the door that states that the gym leader is out and won't come back for a while. Upset about this, Omega decided to do some training in Hot Home City. During the trainings, Omega surprisingly met with Lucas again. After catching up, he said there was a Hot Home City battle competition. After hearing about that, Omega decided to enter, so he entered at number 31, and on a day on the tag team competition, Omega's tag partner was none other than Lucas. And the rules are simple, each trainer can use one Pokemon each with no time limit and no subjugation, and when both Pokemon are in the battle, the winner will go to the next round. Omega and Lucas, who are in Block D, the trainers, one using Guitars while the others using Grumble, while Lucas called out Lickitung and Omega called out Luxio. Of course, they got through the first round. After the first day of the tournament was over, Omega and Lucas was listening to Paul's Chimchar's backstory. Unfortunately, this didn't make the trainers unhappy about Paul, but also Omega's Monferno, who also listened to Chimchar's backstory. Now they won the second round with Omega with Cranidos while Lucas using Magby, and just like in the anime, Omega witnessed Paul releasing Chimchar and Ash invited him to his party, while also dealing with Team Rocket. In the next day in the semi-round tag competition, Dawn called out Pachirisu, while her partner Conway called out Aggron, while Omega called out Roselia and Lucas uses Grotto. The battle was tough, but thanks to Roselia's Magical Leaf and Lucas's Grotto's Razor Leaf, they won the battle, and now they were on to the next round against Ash and Paul. Omega called out with Monferno and Lucas called out with Magby, while Ash called out Chimchar and Paul called out Elekid. Now a lot happened during the battle. Not only Paul's Elekid evolved into Electabuzz, but also Lucas's Magby evolved into Magmar. While the two evolved Pokemon clashed each other, Omega decided to take out Ash's Chimchar. Once Ash's Chimchar was defeated, it was 2 against 1. Even though Paul's Electabuzz was powerful, it couldn't defeat the two Fire-type Pokemon. In the end, Paul's Electabuzz was defeated, making Omega and Lucas the winner and receiving the Soup Bells. Now the tag battle competition was over, Omega went his own way, saying bye to his friends and making way to Veilstone City. On the way there, Omega arrived at the Lost Tower. While there, Omega found he was looking for a Dusk Stone, and Omega used the Dusk Stone to evolve Murkrow into Honchkrow. While traveling on the way to Veilstone City, Omega's Cranidos evolved into Rampados, Weasel evolved into Floatzel, and Luxio evolved into Luxray. But once he arrived at Veilstone City, he found that the gym leader, Mei Ling, lacked the confidence and did not accept Omega's battle. After hearing why from Paul's older brother Reggie, he decided to stay in Veilstone City until her confidence comes back. Omega did some training, and then Omega's Honchkrow now knows Aerial Ace. Now of course everything follows like in the anime. Ash and his friends arrive in Veilstone City, Dawn battle against Marlene to get her confidence back, and she does, but instead of Omega battling her, Ash will. In the end, it ends up as a draw, but Ash still gets the Couple Badge. That night, an evil team known as Team Galactic were trying to steal the Veilstone City meteors, but everyone including Omega were able to stop them. The following day, Omega, Maylene, and Reggie said goodbye to Ash and his friends as they leave for Pastoria City. But before Omega went to rest, he told Maylene that he would give her another day to rest her team. On that day, it was time for Omega's gym battle against Maylene. Omega called out his Floatzel, while Maylene called out Meditite. Now, Omega's Floatzel did do some damage to Maylene's Meditite. Omega recalled back his Floatzel and called out his Honchkrow. And since Honchkrow is a both Dark and Flying type, he managed to win against Maylene's Meditite. Maylene called out her Meditite and called out her Machoke, while Omega did the same and called back his Honchkrow and called out Floatzel. Unfortunately, May's Machoke managed to defeat Omega's Floatzel. He would call back his Floatzel and call out Honchkrow. In the end, both Pokemon were defeated by a double knockout. Maylene and Omega only can call out one Pokemon. Maylene called back her Machoke and called out her Lucario. Omega called back his Floatzel and called out his Monferno. Even though Omega has the advantage, Maylene's Lucario pushed back Omega's Monferno with Throne Brush. But in the end, Omega's Monferno managed to beat Maylene's Lucario. And in the end, once Omega was the victor, Omega's Monferno evolved into Infernape. At the end of the day, Omega received the Couple Badge. That night, Omega healed his team at Veilstone City's Pokemon Center, and then headed his way to Pastoria City to face off against the 4th gym leader. On the way to Pastoria City, he battled some trainers and arrived at Lake Valor. Over there, he arrived at Pastoria City. Sadly, the gym leader wasn't there, so Omega decided to wait at the Pokemon Center. But while waiting, he decided to go and try out the Great Smash. However, there wasn't any Pokemon that caught his eye, but he did find a Leaf Stone. Leaving the Great Marsh with the Leaf Stone in his hand, a young trainer came up to him at the exit of the Great Marsh. The young trainer asked Omega if he could have the Leaf Stone. Omega agreed, but he asked what's in it for him. The young trainer said he would trade the Leaf Stone for the Shiny Stone he has. After hearing he says he's got a Shiny Stone, Omega agreed and they swapped the stones. The young trainer then called out his Exeggcute, then gave them the Leaf Stone to evolve it into Exeggutor. Omega called out his Roselia, gave her the Shine Stone, and Roselia evolved into Roserade. But to top it all off, Roserade learned the newest move known as Poison Jab. A day went by and it was time for Omega to face the Pastoria City gym leader, Crash Awake. Of course, he started the battle off with Quagsire, and Omega called out his Roserade. However, Omega managed to do a little bit of damage until he caught off guard with Quagsire's Ice Beam. In the end, Roserade defeated Quagsire. Crash then called out his next Pokemon, Gyarados. Omega called back his Roserade and called out Luxray. While Gyarados managed to stand against his first electric attack, the second one, Gyarados was defeated. Crash then called out his last Pokemon, none other than Floatzel. Omega, keeping his Luxray, did some damage to Crash's Floatzel, but in the end, Omega's Luxray was defeated. Omega then called back his Luxray and called out his Roserade. While fighting Roserade's Poison Jab, finally poisoned Crash's Floatzel. But in the end, Floatzel defeated Roserade. Omega can only use one Pokemon and called out his none other than its Floatzel. The two Floatzels battled it out, and in the end, Crash's Floatzel was unable to battle, making Omega the victor. And then, Crasher gives Omega the Fin Badge. So after resting at the Pastoria City Pokemon Center, Omega decided to head back to Hearthstone City to see if the gym was finally open. Unfortunately, once he arrived there, it was still closed. Upset about this, Omega decided to go to the Hearthstone City Pokemon Center, where he surprisingly meet with Wally. After catching up with him, Wally said he was entering the Sinnoh League, and he already has 2 badges. Wally then asked Omega for the battle to see how strong he is, and of course, Omega accepts. And behind the Pokemon Center, Wally called out his Altaria, while Omega called out his Honchkrow. However, Omega didn't expect Wally to raise his Altaria well. Honchkrow was defeated by Altaria's Dragon Pulse. Wally then called out his second Pokemon, Gabite, while Omega called out his Rampardos. Even though Gabite was indeed strong, but Rampardos and Wally's Gabite was then Headbutt. Omega then called out his final Pokemon, Infernape, while Wally called out his strongest Pokemon, Gallade. Omega was surprised to see Wally's fully evolved Rolls from Hoenn. But the battle was insane, with Gallade being a fighting and psychic type, and Infernape being a fighting and fire type. In the end, it was ended as a draw. However, both trainers still enjoyed the battle, even their Pokemon. On the next day, Omega decided to train his team ready for the next gym, while Wally headed to Veilstone City. 10 days went by and Omega's team gotten a lot stronger. On the next day, he went to see the Hearthstone City gym to see what was finally opened. Omega went inside to face a 3-on-3 battle against Fanteeza. Fanteeza started with Miss Magius, while Omega goes all out and called out his Honchkrow. Thanks to 10 days of training, Honchkrow easily defeated Fanteeza's Miss Magius. Fanteeza then called back his Miss Magius and called out her Gengar, while Omega called back his Honchkrow and called out Rampardos. And thanks to Rampardos' ability, known as Mold Breaker, was able to negate Gengar's levitation ability. Thanks to that, Rampardos was able to defeat Fanteeza's Gengar, and her last Pokemon, of course, is a Drifbloom. But Omega decided to keep Rampardos, however, it only did 2 attacks, dealing damage to Drifbloom, and then Drifbloom was able to defeat Rampardos. Omega still wanted to save his Honchkrow for later, decided to call out his second Pokemon, Luxray. Luxray managed to deal some damage, but in the end, Luxray was defeated in battle. Omega then called out his last Pokemon, none other than his Honchkrow, and with the type advantage and the 10 days of training, Omega was able to win and earn himself the Relic Badge. While Omega was healing his team at Hearthstone City Pokemon Center, he found that the next gym is in Camelot City. So, Omega took a blimp ride over there. Once Omega arrived there, he battled against the Camelot City gym leader, Byron. Byron called out his Bronzord, and Omega called out his Infernape. But as soon as the battle started, Byron used Rain Dance. So, Omega called back his Infernape and called out Floatzel. And thanks to the rain, Floatzel can use his ability Swift Swim, and thanks to that, Floatzel was able to beat Byron's Bronzord. Byron then called out his second Pokemon, Steelix. Omega then called back his Floatzel due to the Rain Dance stopping, and called out his Infernape. And thanks to type advantage, as well as Infernape's hard training, Steelix was defeated. Then Byron called out his final Pokemon, Bastiodon. While it did take some damage of Omega's Infernape, it was able to win. Omega then called back his Infernape and was going to call out Floatzel. However, he decided to battle against a fossil Pokemon with another fossil Pokemon, and called out his Rampardos. And thanks to hard training, Rampardos takes down Byron's Bastiodon with Flamethrower. And then, Omega received from Byron the Mind Badge. With so much happening, Omega decided to heal his team and decided to do some training at a place known as Iron Island to improve his team. Of course, whilst training, the Pokemon on Iron Island started to rampage. Omega stayed at the Pokemon Center only to meet up with Ash and his friends. He went with them to find out what's going on, as well as try and find their friend Berry. As soon as we got attacked by Steel-type Pokemon, on the way we went up with Riley, who was also trying to figure out what's going on. After finding out it was Team Galactic, we tried to stop them, but we only stopped all the Steel Pokemon that was going on Rampage. However, they escaped. If we did, they would blow up the island. But thanks to Riley and his Lucario, they managed to stop the traps from exploding using their aura, foiling Team Galactic's plan. Then a lady named Professor Carolina arrived by helicopter to investigate the Iron Ruins further. While she was explaining, Omega saw something gleaming from a distance. Omega found a protector and a metal coat, but maybe most of all, a rare one is a Pokemon egg. Once he knew what a protector is, he decided to take the egg to Counterlift City. While the egg is getting looked on by Nurse Joy, Omega decided to call Professor Oak and ask for his Rhydon and Cypher. By only temporarily using Honchkrow, he received Cypher and gave it the metal coat, and then returned back Cypher to Professor Oak so Cypher can evolve into Scizor. Then he gave Rhydon the protector, then received back his Honchkrow. Then Rhydon evolved into Rhyperior. Omega thanked Oak for evolving his Pokemon, and then he headed on to check on the egg. After finding out the egg was okay, Omega decided to take it, so Nurse Joy put the egg in an egg case, and Omega went his way to Snowpoint City. And with that is halfway done of the Sinnoh region. Now I know you got a lot of questions, and I'm going to answer them. First of all, yes, I gave my character Chimchar from Professor Oak's lab, just like Cyndaquil in Professor Oak. It got totally forgotten in its debut episode, and we never knew what happened to it. As well as Turtwig. So I gave my version of Lucas the Turtwig from Professor Oak's lab, and Chimchar for last for Omega. Besides, I looked up and I found out in the Adventures version of Lucas that he does have a Torterra. And speaking of trainers, yes, I brought Wally back from Hoenn to the Sinnoh region. So instead of getting Gardevoir like in the original Ruby and Sapphire game, I gave him Gallane because in the anime we never seen the Gallane but only in the Darkrai movie. And besides, Wally and his Gallane will have more appearance in the future stories that I'm planning. And yes, I gave Wally a goodbye because in the Battle Mansion, Wally has a Garchomp, so I wanted him to have that pre-pseudo legendary in his team. Now, I know what you're going to be arguing about as well is the battle between my character and Lucas against Ash and Paul. In the original version, Ash and Paul wins, of course, and get the Soothe Bells. However, Ash never uses the Soothe Bells, ever. And Paul just threw his Soothe Bells to Ash because he just entered the tournament to, well, become stronger. So in my version, I still let Paul's Elekid evolve into Electabuzz, so Ash and Paul can still have that big battle like in the original anime. Now my character did cross paths with Ash's story, however, Ash meets with pseudo legendaries and mythicals, while my character hasn't. Also, I gave my character two things, being a fossil Pokemon because he already has an Aerodactyl, and the egg from Iron Island as a reference from the game, which is going to become a Riolu in the next part. Now, Murkrow into Honchkrow. I know some of you are going to comment saying that that's not the way to find a Duskstone. Well, Paul evolved his Murkrow into Honchkrow before the third gym without any details. so I thought the Lost Tower would be a good place to find a Dust Stone. Now, the Leaf Stone and Shine Stone swap. Since you get a Leaf Stone in the video games from the Great Marsh, I thought it would be a good story. As for evolving Cypher into Scizor and Rhydon into Rhyperior, I thought it would be nice to add them into the team. But don't worry, they'll only make one appearance in each in Part 9. After that, they won't be used. Now, of course, I made my trainer skip summer camp, because there's nothing special by doing that, and besides, I want my trainer's Pokemon to get stronger for the Sinnoh League. Now onto their moves, and of course we start with Murkrow. My trainer's Murkrow is pretty simple, knowing only the moves Wing Attack, Haze, Peck, and Pursuit. And after some training, he got Pursuit to learn Shadow Ball. Now, once Murkrow evolved into Honchkrow, it still knows Shadow Ball, but it knows Nightshade and Dark Pulse, and after some training, it learned Aerial Ace. Now it's Roselia, who it still has the same moves, Magical Leaf, Mega Drain, Sludge Bomb, and Attract. But once she evolved into Roserade, she forgot Sludge Bomb to learn Poison Jab. Now it's a pseudo Pokemon, and starting off of course is Chimchar, who knows Ember, Fury Swipes, and Taunt. I'm giving Chimchar these moves since Dawn's Piplup knew from the beginning of the episode Bomber Beam, Peck, and the newest move Bind. Now once Chimchar evolved into Monferno, it forgot Taunt for Mud Punch and learned Flame Wheel. While training Ember, it became Flamethrower, and Fury Swipes became Sword Dance. And once it evolved into Infernape, it forgot Mud Punch for close combat. Now it's Shinx's turn, and the moves it learned Tackle, Leer, Spark, and Bite. And once it evolved into Luxio, Bite became Crunch, Spark became Thunderbolt, and it forgot Tackle for Quick Attack, and Leer for Double Team. And when Luxio evolved into Luxray, it forgot Quick Attack to learn Thunderfang. Now it's a pseudo fossil Pokemon Cranidos, and its moves are being Headbutt, Focus Energy, and Scary Face. But once it evolved into Rampardos, its moves totally change. It learned Zed Headbutt, Earthquake, and thanks to Monferno, it learned Flamethrower, and after the 10 days of training, it learned Head Smash. Finally, it's Buizel. I know there's an strong Buizel in the anime, but this one is common, being Water Gun, Quick Attack, Swift, and once it evolved from Buizel into Floatzel, it still knows Swift, but it learned Aqua Jet, Bulk Up, and Ice Fang. And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions about part 8 of my Pokemon anime journey, don't hesitate to comment them down below. This is Omega Emperor, stay awesome.